Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to Alka and Rhea show. Thank you for always tuning in with us, and we always appreciate your company. Today, Rhea, she's going to be taking over the conversation, but before I do bring her on, I want to introduce ourselves. My name is Alka,
My name is Rhea, and
and welcome
welcome to
to our
our show.
show. Okay, Rhea, pass the mic to you.
Thank you, Alka. And today's topic is a continuation from the book of Pace Morby, and it is Wealth Without Cash. So let me try to share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All right. Today is a continuation from the book of Pace Morby, Wealth Without Cash. And today's topic, the topic is exit strategies to make money. So exit. One of our mentors, Grant Cardone, always talk about, before you buy the deal, always think about exit. So before I purchase a property, I always think of what are my exit strategies. Now, in this book, Wealth Without Cash, the exit strategies are used to make a lot of money, according to Pace. Snoop Dogg has this phrase, my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Now, the lessons I've learned here are as follows. First, you've negotiated a deal, okay? Now you found a deal and now you're in the process of negotiation. And now you want to get your first paycheck. How does this happen? What are your exit strategies? And how do you disposition the deal? So how do you dispose the deal? What is the process looking like? How can you make money where you are not overcapitalized? So these are just some of the questions that a new person doing this wealth without cash, this seller financing, these are the questions that I would ask if I've never done this. So the number one way Pace teach people to make money in this business, okay, seller financing, is to be a wholesaler, to either a homestead buyer or a cash buyer. Wholesaler is why wholesaler? Because there's less money involved. You are not the final buyer. You're like the middleman. So Pay said the way to make money without spending too much money is to be a wholesaler, to either a homestead buyer or a cash buyer using one of the buying strategies. So, a wholesaler, what is a wholesaler? A wholesaler is someone who obtains a contract. This is like the middleman. He obtains the contract on a property with the seller. So, he finds the seller and finds a buyer. So, again, the wholesaler obtains a contract on a property with the seller and then sells the property to an investor. Again, he is the middleman. He finds the seller and he finds the investor, and he puts them together. So a homestead buyer is a family that plans to move into the property. This is not an investor, but an actual family that wants to live in the property. So this is the typical family homeowner. That's the homestead buyer. A cash buyer is usually an investor, but not all the time. A homestead buyer can also have cash. Now, a cash buyer is an investor in this case, okay, who uses their own disposition strategy. Disposition means how they unload the property or make money on the deal. Disposition is the exit again of this investor. With wholesaling, you can take a fee from several different ways. So wholesaling does not cost a lot of money because you're the middleman, and that's what Pace recommend, to be a wholesaler. So the fees are coming from subject to deal. I will explain later on as we go through along the book. But for now, it is suffice that you know the terms here. subject to deal, seller financing deal. This is another way a wholesaler can make money. A wrap, a lease option, a novation agreement, a note, and an agreement for sale. So in this book, there's 7 choices, 7 ways to make a fee by the wholesaler. So this is how we can quickly make, on average, according to Pace, 5,000 to 40,000 and beyond with a wholesale deal. When done efficiently, wholesale deals can require little money out of your pocket, out of my pocket if I do wholesale. We are finding the deal. This is the seller who has the property and earning an assignment fee for the deal. Okay, you found it. It's like founders keepers, but this is founders fee, right? Finding the seller and finding the investor. Our job as a wholesaler is to connect the seller to the buyer. That's the middleman. Most wholesaler builds a list and builds relationships. So they end up working with the same people over again as they bring in new deals. So for example, I am an investor. So if there is a wholesaler in my community, what he will do is I will be part of that list and he will build relationships with me. Because why? Because I'm an investor. So if he has a deal that I like, I would buy this time, and then I would buy the next time, I would buy the next year. So that's why we'll be working over and over again in several years, depending on his deal, whatever he finds. The flow of a wholesale deal is much simpler than the flow of a retail deal. Now, so retail deal is just like the traditional wholesale deal. It's much simpler according to the book. Like any good investor lead, it starts out by reaching to a seller. Now, the wholesaler really has to have a lot of initiative because he has to find the seller and he has to find the buyer. Now, according to the book, we can do this this is how you find the sellers, and I've done several of this as well. Door knocking, knock, knock on your door, right? If you have a neighbor, you just go walk on the streets that you like to look at. Texting, if you have the number. Cold calling, if you have the number. There are platforms out there that sells this information. Direct mail, right? Direct mail is you actually send them cards or letters. I've used that too. And any other strategy that works for you. So again, to name how we can find the seller: door knocking, texting, cold calling, direct mails, and other things. Now, once the wholesaler closes the deal with a seller, we need to, as a wholesaler, so if you're a wholesaler, this is what you need to do now. You have to set up a purchase contract, which is basically instructions for the title company. Within that purchase contract, because what we have to understand, this is like a sandwich deal. You are not the buyer, you're only the middleman. So this is what goes into that contract, into that purchase contract. So there should be a text, a clause, right, that confirms it is assignable. This is very important. So when you're a wholesaler, you are not the buyer, right? You are the middleman. So this phrase, this assignable, has to be in that purchase contract agreement. You can assign it to the actual buyer, whether it's an investor or the homestead buyer. Now, the wholesaler can assign that contract to another buyer if there is this phrase, right? This assignable. Without this, then you will be the buyer, and you don't want that, because then you have to come up with a lot of money, and then you have to pay again closing fees and title transfer fees. There's several fees that you have to do whenever you buy properties. So now the wholesaler would solve the seller's problem, which is possibly helping with a foreclosure. A lot of times, people with problems with their house, they cannot pay their mortgage. They don't want the property to go back to the bank because then all their equity is wiped out. So if you are a buyer with that, if you are the seller of that home, you have to find these wholesaler people, because then they can salvage your home. They can sell it higher, they make the money, and then you don't destroy your credit score. You don't lose your, you may even earn a little bit of money when you sell to these wholesalers. And so, and negotiate a deal that they can resell the property for more money. This is what it means. If you work with a wholesaler, you might not end up going into foreclosure. Why? Because you get a little bit more money that the wholesaler is willing to pay for you, and then you don't destroy your credit. Now, the assignment, again, the assignment, right, is how they make money. This is how the wholesaler make money. Example. So here, Pace, the author of the book, used key glee for disposition. This is the exit, okay? How are they exiting? For disposition on countless deals. So for example, the purchase contract of a home is 200,000. All right? So you have a house, it's selling for 200,000. Now, Pace, or you as a wholesaler, would contract it for 215,000. So 215,000. So you as a wholesaler would make 15,000. How did we do that? 215,000 is your selling price. The wholesale, okay? Selling price minus 200,000. This is the homeowner's asking selling price, okay? So if you get 215 and you got to pay 200,000 to the homeowner, to the seller, then you make 15,000 without, without a lot of time involved, without a lot of, money put in for renovations, for repairs. And that's why wholesaler is the starting point. If you don't have a lot of cash, you just have to be very diligent in terms of finding the buyer and the seller. So if Keegley agrees, that's the title company. If Keegley agrees, Pace sends them the assignment contract. Or Keegley, in this case, actually is the seller. I mean, the buyer. Keegley is the buyer of this property. So if Keegley agrees, Pace sends them the assignment contract. Now, what we need to do as a wholesaler, we need to send both the purchase contract and the assignment contract to the title company, because it's like a sandwich deal. There are two contracts here. Purchase contract, this is from the seller, right? The actual owner of the property, right? That's the purchase contract. Assignment contract, this is for the wholesaler that we are assigning this property once it closed, right? Then we are assigning this property. So we need to have the purchase contract and we need to have the assignment contract to the title company. That is very important. Keegley takes the new contract and find the cash buyer, the flipper, or the homeowner. So Keegley is the other buyer that may sell the property to another investor, to another flipper, or to a new homeowner. So in turn, Keegley will make another 5,000 or 7,000 on that transaction. In these situations, Keegley do the work that Pace don't want to do. But we can also do this ourselves, which means if we are the wholesaler, we can find our own cash buyer, we can find our own flipper, we can also find our own homeowner. So instead of having multiple points, right, where there's Keegley, we can find directly ourselves as the wholesaler, the buyer, the flipper, or the homeowner, the cash buyer. Again, this depends on scalability. How fast do you want to grow? and how much work we want to put into the deal. In the end, there are multiple contracts and everyone gets paid on the deal. Where do we fit into this puzzle? We can be a lead generator. So what a lead generator does, they find the deal. They find those distressed properties, those troubled homeowners that are going into foreclosure. The middleman is the wholesaler who connects there is also a middleman. They connect the wholesaler to the flippers. So you could have a spotter or another finder for you, where they connect you as a wholesaler to the flippers. And then you have the end buyer who knows how to raise private capital and get the hard money loan or use cash. However, the money is brought in, the buyer connects with a title company to confirm escrow. Then the cash buyer need to choose their exit strategy for the property. Now, I'm going to talk about several strategies, the exit strategies to make money. And as we go further along, I'm going to expound on each one of them. So stay tuned for this, because these are the exit strategies that I'll be talking on the next few topics. So the exit strategies to make money that are on the book are wrap exit strategy. It is just for us to be familiar, and I'll explain it some more as we go further along. So, wrap exit strategy, lease option exit strategy, subtail exit strategy and novation agreements, traditional rental exit strategy, group home exit strategy, vacation rental exit strategy. As you can see, there's several 6 ways in here that are exit strategies to make money. And like I said, I will expound each of them in the next few weeks as we move further in our book. All right, so let me know in the comment section below what you've learned. So stay tuned for more Alka and Rhea show.
Rhea, that was, yeah, absolutely. When it comes to, and I always like to say, anytime you get into, real estate, you get into, investment of any kind, you always got to do your due diligence, right? You got to do your due diligence, because without going, and you talked about the exit. So if one, you're going to purchase a property or you're going to invest a property, what would you advise our viewers to, what would be the first step that they would need to take in order to make a sound investment? And oftentimes, people may not be apt, they may not have the knowledge as to what they need to. So what would you advise, first of all, how would you advise them to take the steps to work with an estate agent, or what would you say?
So, for example, a lot of our listeners and viewers may not have enough cash, right?
Yeah,
They may not
yeah.
have enough cash to buy their own deal. So, what the
Mhm.
book is saying, the wholesale process, being a wholesaler, is actually the best way to make money on real estate, because you just have to be the problem solver in this case. So, what you would do is talk to people, because when talking to people, you will find that there are sellers that are in distress. And then I would connect to, there are several real estate groups in your community. You can do either Google or Facebook. There are real estate groups. And what's in the real estate groups, there's actually investors, either
Mhm.
they're wholesalers too, or actually investors. So if you have these two together, you can put them together, be the middleman. So if you don't have a lot of cash, right, you go walk around in your neighborhood. For sure, there's probably, one or two, not a lot. There's probably one or two that, may need help in terms of selling their property. You're not buying it, right? But you, as a wholesaler, would need to connect this other group. How can you find this group? Like, again, there's community groups that are either wholesaler too, or people who are investors. And what do the investors do? They need deals. And sometimes the investors, they don't have a lot of time. So you will be solving that time because now you're bridging the gap. You're finding the seller and you're finding the investors or the wholesalers that have been doing it, and they can be your mentors. And that's how, in this particular topic, right, how they can start off without, too much information on real estate, too much education on real estate, and not too much money. So it's being the middleman, solving the problem of the seller and solving the problem of the buyer.
Right. And would you suggest for them to search distressed properties? What's the best way? What's the
Yes,
best
so
approach?
distress, right. So first they can do driving for dollars, right? They search in their own local community. If they see or spot a property with high grasses, unkept home, there's probably a lot of garbages, all they need to do is knock on that door, talk to the owner, and find more information. Are they in distress or not? So I would drive for dollars, which I've done in the past.
Okay. So when you've done drive for dollars, what
Mhm.
has been your approach?
So driving for dollars is just spotting. What that means is you're really literally driving and looking at your neighborhood to see which one needs a lot of tender loving care in terms of the property. Because if the property is not being taken care of, either bad roofing, bad siding, high grass, right, unkept, too many garbages in the yard, that means the owner may be in distress, may need of money. That's why he
Mhm.
cannot fix the property. So that's how I would do it. Is I would talk to those homeowners by driving. Just drive or walk.
Right. Okay. And for those people who have not done this,
Mm-hmm.
and but they want to, they're curious to know about, real estate. I want to invest in a property, but they could be introvert. They're too shy to approach the seller or to knock on the door. The strategies that you mentioned. So, if you are an introvert, what can be your approach? How do you go about then finding property or talking to that individual?
Well, if you're an introvert, you have to, break away, right? Like you said, quantum leap. They have to. It's a mindset thing,
Yeah.
because if you're introvert, you gotta do what you have to do. It's whatever it takes. Because if you're looking to improve your life, being an introvert will just keep you to your own four corners of your house. So I think it's a matter of, do you really need it? Because if you really do need money, right, if you really do want to improve your life, you gotta break that mindset of yours, just like what you talked about, that mindset, that quantum leap, right? You gotta break that mindset and just get out there. If you're shy at first, then they can go to your own cell phone and YouTube it, right? YouTube it in your house, and then slowly get a friend through either those Facebook meetups, those community events, who are doing the same thing, because they can be your mentor and most likely they can guide you one on one, where you're
Mm,
not exposed to a lot of people if you're introvert. But if you're introvert, you got to break free of that. It's a
yeah.
mindset thing.
Just got to do it. Just got to do it. Just got to do it. Um, Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing those tips, Rhea. Amazing. And with that being said, we have come to the end of another amazing show. Today, Rhea talked about the exit strategy and very helpful. So, as Rhea mentioned, the challenge, the exercise that she gave us to do, please make sure you do the exercise because we're here for you. We're here for your success. So make the rest of the day the best of your day, and we will see you the same time tomorrow morning. Bye for now, guys.